My name is Matthew Cooper. This story starts in the Southern California desert, the last town in California. Very dry area, very hot during summer, very cold during winter, as typical to the desert. It was around 1980. My parents were tired of moving from apartment to apartment. They were looking for some type of stability for the family at the time. They couldn't afford to purchase a house. Within that area, there's a lot of low-income housing. They had a program at the time where you can build your own house. It took a lot of effort from the community. It took the whole neighborhood to be able to build these houses. That's what my parents decided to do. They got involved with this program. They all worked to build a house. My dad worked 40 hours a week. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She worked jobs here and there throughout the summer. They worked together to build this house in a very rural part of our county. Our house is located next to an agricultural field. At the end of the block, there's what we would call it was a junkyard. What it really was, a storage lot for an electrical company. They stored random commercial grade equipment, things of that sort. Across from that was a location that an agricultural farmer would store his tractors and various farm equipment. It was really rural. There's only about 500 people, maybe at 1,000. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody else's business. Word travels fast. The town had a history of camps, that people that built the railroad systems were forced to stay in these camps. People would echo just sentiments of, oh, there's a train. I heard it going through by my house. Growing up, we never noticed any railroad tracks. We always thought those stories were just folklore. We did notice weird things when we would walk home from a friend's house in the middle of the night. Kind of that quiet where it kind of just consumes all of the surrounding area. It would get quite eerie. From there, after my parents settled within the neighborhood, finally got to complete their house, my mom and my dad had my sister and my older brother. It was just them for a few years, all throughout the 80s. This is where things started to happen, got a little bit more active. My mom would sometimes get an eerie feeling. One day, my older brother, Timmy, when he was still a toddler, he had a really bad fever, really bad, in the hundreds, 103, 104, something of that sort. She, as any mother would, stayed up all night, taking care of him, giving him medicine, just trying to watch him. He was in a bassinet next to their bed. They went ahead and went to sleep. For some reason, my mom felt the urgency to wake up. My mother woke up. She noticed a figure standing next to my brother, standing over him on the side of the bed next to the bassinet. She was frozen. She couldn't move. She couldn't talk. She was trying to utter words, but she just couldn't get them out. She was just staring at this figure. She said it spoke to her in some telepathic way. She couldn't hear words, but she knew what it was saying. And it kept just saying, I'm going to take him now. I'm going to take him now. I'm going to take him now. She was trying to utter no, 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 no. She was just trying to speak it to existence, trying to some way to get some words out, but she couldn't. She started crying. She opened her eyes and it was gone. My mom started to think there might be something here. She got the house blessed. She called in a priest. Everything was kind of quiet for a while. It wasn't until around 1990, early 90s, that my elder brother was born. They were all living in the house at the time. That's when things kind of started to pick up again. My mom would say that when Michael was around a toddler, Timmy was a little bit older, Michael was around 4 or 5, started saying that he had a best friend in the house. He would tell her, he's scary, he's ugly, his name's Harry. It was weird because neither Timmy nor Tiffany had ever had an imaginary friend. My mom, it was new to her that Michael kept on uttering these words. Oh, it's scary, it's scary. He wouldn't want to go to his room. He would look down the hall, then tell my mom no, no. And then look down the hall and tell her no. He didn't want to go down the hall. He was just terrified. He did not want to go down the hall. He didn't want to go to his room. He didn't want to be by himself. He was always by my mom's side. My mom, she felt something was going on. She said that's when they started hearing noises, footsteps down the halls, doors opening. This was all previous to me being born, just things that were already lingering in the air in the house. Around 1995, that's when I'm born. My parents are still living in this house they built. They're extremely attached to it. They love this house. They're already close to paying it off. Growing up, I didn't really have much occurrences. As far as I remember, I was a sick kid, always in and out of the hospital, in and out of the doctors. Other than that, it was fairly normal in my early years. It wasn't until 5 years old, 6 years old, I started noticing I would sleep in my parents' room. I would oftentimes stay up in the middle of the night. I had real bad insomnia as a kid, where I would just stay up a majority of the night watching TV or just laying in bed. In between my parents, I hear footsteps walking up and down the hallway. I would just hear doors open and close, doors open and close. I look down the hall, no one's there. I'm thinking, well, that's weird. I go lay back down. Then I hear it again, look down the hall, no one's there. This time, being a kid, I start yelling to my mom, like, Mom, 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 Mom. Trying to get her attention. She wakes up like half tired. She's like, what? And I was like, oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? She's like, go to sleep, go to sleep. I would hear that throughout the whole entire night, just footsteps. Often, I was always scared in the night. I remember I was probably 6 at the time, 7. My mom was taking me to school. She was running late. She was making breakfast in the morning, trying to hurry up, telling me to eat as fast as I could while she was gathering her purse, the car keys. We run outside of the front door. She's pulling me by my arm to hurry. As she turns around to lock the front door, I'm just right there standing next to her with my backpack. On the side of our house, we had a chain link fence. The chain link fence just instantly starts shaking. Boom, 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 boom. It's just shaking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's a clear spring day. The weather was hot. It's shaking in a way where it's being pulled forward, stops, and then pushed back. Pulled forward, stops, pushed back. And we're staring at it for a couple seconds. We're just watching this fence just viciously shake. My mom doesn't say anything. She just looks at me, grabs my hand, and she's like, let's go. That's when I started to realize something was happening here. There was just no explanation to the things that were happening at our house. I would still hear the walking of the footsteps up and down. I would notice different things at the house. It always felt eerie when no one was there. I'd be inside playing video games or watching TV. Even times that you kind of were trying to relax, it just always felt disturbing. Like somebody was kind of watching you, somebody was there with you. We would talk about it. She couldn't deny it anymore. It became something that was so visible to us that she was like, well, I can't just keep on keeping this to myself. I've already been hearing things, I've seen things, so I got to start telling them. My mother, my father, they used to have to go grocery shopping 20 minutes away because that's where the nearest store was. I'm waiting at the house. She put my older brother, Michael, she told him, hey, you know what? Just make sure you watch him, check on him every now and then. My brother was already a teenager. He was into his own little thing. I'm watching TV and not thinking much of it. It's probably around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. My parents should be home any minute now. I just hear a knock, a loud knock, then a pause and a loud knock. The door starts shaking. Our front door starts shaking. I'm watching the door shake, as if somebody was trying to unlock it. I didn't think much of it. I was expecting my parents to be home. I went and I unlocked the door. All of a sudden, my mom comes running in. Boom, the door flings open. She just instantly starts yelling, why do you have the door locked? You guys are so paranoid. What caught me off guard was that my mom never cussed. She was very religious at the time. She never cussed, especially towards us. That kind of caught me by surprise. I laid back down on the couch. She's still yelling just random profanities about the door being locked, about us being paranoid, that we're always doing this and that. And at the time, she's just locked eyes, glaring at me, just yelling. And I look at her and I say, oh, you know what, Mom? I love you, Mom. I love you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lock the door. I'm sorry. She looks at me, stops talking immediately, looks me straight in the eyes. It's just with the most, I've never seen this type of glare on somebody before. Just utters, gives out a big sigh, walks straight through our kitchen to the back door and slams the back door. When the back door slammed, my older brother came running out. And he comes running up to me. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What are you doing?" I was still laying down on the couch at the time. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Nothing. I'm just right here watching TV." He's like, "What was that? What was that? Why'd you slam the door?" I was like, "That wasn't me. That was Mom." He stopped. He's like, "No." I was like, "It was Mom. She went through the backyard. She was mad about the door being locked." He was like, "I just talked to Mom right now on the phone. She's still at the store." I didn't believe him at the time. I was like, "Man, stop messing with me. Stop playing around. Just, stop trying to scare me. Stop trying to scare me." Because we were always kind of playing jokes on each other. So I was like, "Stop trying to scare me." Sure enough, my mother comes home about an hour and a half later with my dad. And I started breaking down and telling her what I saw. I just could not stop crying. There for sure is something here. There's no denying what I saw. I saw it. My brother heard it. My brother was just telling my mom what I had told him. That's when she confirmed it for us. Something's happening. After that, everything went into full swing. My brother was still very reserved, spent most of his time in his room. He was very into heavy metal, punk music. My parents didn't understand it because they were very old school. They didn't grow up with any of that type of music. They would often tell him, "Oh, you're playing devil music in there." He had long hair, he wore eyeliner, he wore heavy metal t-shirts, the spiked bells, the spiked bracelets, the whole thing. And so he started learning how to play guitar. He'd be playing his guitar all night until my parents would bang on the door to get him to stop. He would be at school till around 5 o'clock. He had to take the bus, walk home. I got home a little earlier. I would be home by 2:30, 3 o'clock. It would just be usually me and my mom. My mom would be making dinner. We would hear music coming from his bedroom. We would hear music being played. We'd hear the guitar being strummed. I would go up to my mom and be like, "Hey, is Michael here?" And she'd be like, "No, he's still at school." We thought maybe the TV was on. We'd go in there and check. And sure enough, nothing would be on. This would happen over and over, countless times. We would hear music being played, the guitar being strummed, the sound of the amplifier being turned on, buzzing, and something being strummed, his guitar pedals being pressed. We would constantly be hearing these noises coming from his room. After that started happening, we would notice different things. That's when my mom decided to tell me about a time when we were younger. She's at the house one day, we're all at school. She heard somebody call her name. She heard somebody say "Mom" or try to get her attention. She went and looked down the hall. She seen a little boy run to my brother Michael's room. She didn't know what to do. She followed this little boy. She walks into my brother Michael's room. She sees a little boy sitting with his legs crossed in my brother's closet, just staring at her. Doesn't say a word. She just looks at this little boy, backs out the door, closes the door, and she just goes back to washing dishes. She kept this a secret from everybody for a while. When we started hearing noises from his room, she finally confessed this to us, that she had seen this. We were just mind blown. Me and my cousin, she lived down the street from us. She would come over. I would tell her about the things that were happening there. We would just do little ghost hunting experiments. One day, me, my cousin, and one of my friends, we were like, "Hey, there's this haunted house." Or everybody said it was haunted. It was this abandoned house that was located in the middle of a field. We decided, let's go out there. We'll try to film a ghost hunting episode. We ride our bikes a couple of miles out. We arrive at the house. The house used to have a kind of a chain to block from people getting in. We go around the chain. We're standing around the house. I'm videotaping the exterior. My cousin's talking. We're just joking around. I just start taunting this entities that we were hoping that we were going to see. I just start saying things like, "Oh, if you're really here, then come out and show yourself. Come out and show yourself. If something's really here, then show itself. We didn't notice anything, so we're just like, whatever, it didn't work. We start riding our bikes back home. I stop and I'm like, let me look at the video I just recorded. I flip out the little camera, the little screen. I start watching the video. As I'm watching, I notice in the video, when we're filming the house, around the time that I'm taunting it and saying all these things, there's somebody peeking around the corner. I zoom into it, and sure enough, there's nobody there. I go to the side of the house, somebody peeks around the corner. It's somebody wearing an all-white hood. They're looking at us with the all-white hood, just stared at us. I peek around the edge again. You can see it. I go back, then it's gone. I'm showing my cousin and my friend this. They got instantly chills. We were pedaling as fast as we could back to town. It was getting dark. We're in the middle of fields. We start pedaling back to town. We get to my parents' house. We leave the bikes there. We are just trying to digress everything that happened to us, just standing outside of my house in the front yard. When we're standing outside of the house in my front yard, my neighbors about 2 houses down come out screaming, completely just yelling. They're dragging one of their guests out. I didn't recognize who the guy was. They're dragging him out. They're just yelling, he's possessed, he's possessed. This guy is screaming at the top of his lungs, oh, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you. Just completely yelling. They're pouring water on his head. He's just gargling the water, spitting it out, yelling, gargling the water, spitting it out, yelling. My neighbors just start punching the guy. I don't know what they thought they were gonna, if they were gonna knock it out of him or what, but they just start beating this dude. We just seen this at this abandoned house. We're watching my neighbors beat this guy up. They're saying that he's possessed. My friend, he started having a panic attack. He was just terrified. It was just so many things that were happening all within that day. We're gonna walk to my cousin's house just to ease the nerves. She lives all the way down the street. We're walking, we can hear rocks hitting our feet. We start seeing little pebbles pass by our feet. They were getting thrown in front of us. We would turn around, we wouldn't see anybody. In the process of trying to calm my friend down, he takes off running. We run after him. We end up running to this church that was a couple blocks away from our neighborhood. We just sit outside of this church for hours until he feels comfortable to go back to my house. Finally, he feels comfortable. Right when we get back to my house, instantly starts feeling the panic attack again. He's like, I gotta go home. So he started crying. My mom feels bad and she takes him home. It started becoming folklore around the neighborhood and at school. I would tell them little stories about things I would hear. Some of my friends would be like, nah, you're lying. They didn't want to believe it. One day, a group of buddies was like, all right, well, let's spend a night at your house. And I was like, all right, are you sure? And it was about 4 or 5 of us. And we're like, yeah. They were like, yeah. I was like, okay. The room that I had was this converted garage that my parents had converted. I had my bed on one side of it. On the other side, I had a futon couch, a TV, a drum set in the corner. It felt like a studio apartment just because of how big it was. We're all trying to pick a spot. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lay on the bed. My other buddy laid on the futon. We all found a spot to crash out at. My buddy, that was this huge denier, he decided to sleep on the floor next to the drum set. We tried to stay up to around 1 o'clock in the morning. We all decided it's time to crash out. I turned off the light. I fell asleep perfectly fine. The next day, I wake up. My buddy's awake really early, super early, around 7 a.m. He's the only one awake at the time. When I wake up, he's already sitting up on the couch. When I wake up, he's like, I'm never, ever, ever spending a night at your house again. I'm never going to come back and spend a night here. He ended up telling us that after we all fell asleep, he stayed up. He couldn't sleep. He was just laying there. My room was incredibly dark once I turned off all the lights. He would close his eyes and nothing. He said around maybe an hour, 2 hours later, after just laying there for so long, he heard somebody hit the bottom of the drum set, which it made a loud thud, as if somebody had kicked the pedal. And he was like, what? He turns and tries to look in that direction, but of course it's dark. He starts hearing a loud growl, like an animal's growl. They just started getting louder and louder and louder. He's never had something like that happen to him. He didn't even get to really sleep because he was so scared. It was just terrifying. One day, my older sister and her boyfriend, they were at the house. They were visiting. We were talking in my room. My mom, my dad, and my sister, our boyfriend. My brother, Michael, he was in his room, or so we thought. He walked into my mother's room and used their restroom. We're talking in the room, and my older brother comes running into the room, screaming. He saw something in the window, that he saw somebody. The thing that caught me off guard is that my older brother's about 7 years older than me, so he was terrified. He was crying, and he was telling my mom and my dad what he saw. My dad and my sister's boyfriend ran outside, ran around the whole house, looked at everything, looked all around, and they couldn't find anybody. My brother tells us that when he was using the restroom, he looked out the window and he saw a pale face just staring at him through the window. Just somebody that looked dead. They were just staring at him through the window. He instantly ran out right when he saw that. One night, I remember the phone ringing really late at night. I remember hearing my mom get up and answer the phone. It was like 3 a.m. It was my brother, Timmy. It was weird that he would call so late. He was just telling my mom that he was coming home, him and his buddy, and they got into a car accident, a really bad car accident. My mom calls my sister, and they all go to where my brother had this accident. They're trying to get him out of the vehicle, and they end up pulling him out and flying him to San Diego. He was in the ICU. Me and my mom had a talk. She had told me that a few days prior to that happening to my brother, that she was outside in our backyard hanging up some clothes in the middle of the night. She was upset, I think, at my dad at the time about something. She was in the backyard trying to blow some steam off, hanging up the clothes. She looks down into the very end of the backyard. From the shadows, she sees the same figure she saw when my brother was little walk from the shadows. It stood where she was standing, but at the other side of the backyard. At one end of the walkway, she was on the other side of the walkway. She froze. She went back inside. A couple days later is when my brother had his accident and almost died. She didn't know how to feel about it. Fast forward, now I had moved out, had my own family, married. It's just my mom and my dad still in the house. It was like that for a few years. It was just my parents in the house. My dad passed away around 2019. He got sick. He was getting better. Suddenly he passed away. It was just my mom in the house. We all took it really, really hard. I had went and stayed with her because it was just too hard for her to take at the time. My siblings would stop by often. I remember one day I was taking a shower. I would take hour-long showers, and my dad hated it. I'm in the shower. My mom's in her bedroom. All of a sudden, I hear a loud bang on the door. Bang, bang. I yell to my mom, What do you need? What happened? And she's like, I didn't do that. I heard that, but I didn't do that. I get out of the shower, and then I talk to her, and she just starts laughing. She's like, that's your dad telling you to get out the shower already. We just started laughing, thinking like it became so normal for us to kind of have these occurrences. We could still feel like the presence of my dad in the house. It didn't feel like he passed away there. I often catch myself going home and kind of looking for him, and then realizing like, oh yeah, he's passed away. You could still feel his energy in the house and still feel his presence. My mom would say the same thing. For a while, there was a lot of grief, a lot of gloominess around the house. Now that my dad's gone, it was just gloominess. Finally, I kind of let my mom be. She was able to kind of be by herself a little bit more. I go back to my family. I only live about a 10-15 minute drive away from my mom's house. I'm always there, either doing a project or working on something or getting some stuff. I had left my PlayStation and I had left it set up at our house. I went over there one day to play it. I had my headset on. I was really into the game I was playing at the time. I hear again a bang. I heard a bang on the window. I'm yelling for her. What's up? Because it's just me and her. What do you need? What do you need? I kind of get annoyed because I'm trying to play this game while thinking my mom's asking me to do something or needs me for something. I end up pausing the game. I go outside. I'm looking for her. I didn't find her in the backyard. I go to the front yard. She's out in the driveway sweeping. I'm like, hey, what's up? Why'd you knock on the window? What do you need? She's like, I haven't knocked on the window. I've been out here the whole time. And it was just things like that where it was just constant, like us thinking, oh man, like there's somebody, it's my mom or it's this person. And I noticed that these things would happen when you least expect it. When all other things are gone from your mind, these things happen where it just throws you through a complete, like, it makes your heart beat faster, makes you start your palms sweaty. And it's just like, what? You know, if that wasn't you, then, and things like that would just happen and happen. And it was more innocent things like that. I remember another time that I had stored some old vending machines at her house. I was trying to like start a vending machine business. I always try to have an entrepreneurial spirit. I would just try to get her involved in anything I was doing to kind of help her kind of pass the time and not think about my dad so much. One day we're out late night. I would go after work. We would try to paint up this vending machine, try to fix it up a bit. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with this vending machine. I'm asking her to pass me the cord to the machine that's on the other side. These things are huge. I'm asking her, I'm like, hey mom, pass me the cord, pass me the cord. I'm reaching behind to grab it. The cord ends up in my hand. I was like, thank you, I appreciate it. I plug it in. When I walk around to the other side of the machine, my mom's not even there. She had went inside. She wasn't anywhere. I go inside and I'm like, I was like, I thought you were helping me. She's like, yeah, I got thirsty. I came inside. And I was like, you didn't just hand me the cord? She was like, no, I've been inside. I was telling her, I was like, man, whatever's here, it's helpful. And we just kind of laughed it off because it was just so common. It would just go in these waves. Things would happen and it would calm down. It would catch us by surprise. One day, I'm driving to my mom's house and I'm talking to her on the phone. I kept talking to her the whole ride to her house. I'm getting to her street. As I'm pulling up, my mom drives this old white truck that she's had for years since I was in school. She still has it. She has a deep sentimental attachment to this little white pickup truck she has. As I'm driving up to her house, I see that she's sitting inside of the pickup truck. I'm talking to her on the phone. I'm like, hey, why are you in your truck? What are you doing? She's just sitting there with her hands on the steering wheel looking forward. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are you taking off somewhere or where are you going? As I'm talking to her, asking her what she's doing, what I'm visualizing is her sitting in the pickup truck. She's holding onto the steering wheel. I'm asking her on the phone. She gets out of the truck, slams the door in the truck and starts walking towards the front door. And I was like, yeah, you're going inside the house right now. She's like, no, I'm inside already. And I look up again and I don't see anybody. So I'm like, what? And when I go inside, I finally, I park my truck and I go inside. I was like, you were just sitting in your truck. Why were you sitting in your truck? She's like, I haven't even been outside. As I've been talking to you, I've been here in the couch in the living room. I instantly got the chills because it kind of just took me back to my childhood of seeing all these things. I didn't even know what to think. This was about maybe last year. These things have been happening pretty much my entire childhood to adulthood and continue to happen. My sister still lives very close to my mom. She's the one that mostly goes and takes care of her. My sister has some of her vehicles parked at my mom's house. One day she was getting in one of her vehicles at my mom's house. She's starting it up. She hears the front door open. She's thinking that my mom's gonna come out and greet her. She watches both the front door and the screen door open. Both doors close, and my mom never comes out. She waited a while, nothing took off. She calls my mom when she's running errands, and she's like, hey, I thought you were gonna come outside. My mom's like, what are you talking about? I'm not even home right now. I'm out with your grandma. Things occur there, and my mom still lives within the house. She just says that it's her roommate. It just became just second nature for things to happen at my mom's house. That's pretty much how it is still to this day. I think a big explanation was throughout my childhood, there was a lot of issues that my parents were going through. We didn't really quite understand being kids. That was probably what set the energy when we were younger. We kind of didn't really notice with us fighting amongst each other, my parents fighting. It was causing all this kind of negative energy to manifest into something bigger. My mom had looked into the property when they bought it. They didn't really notice anything. There wasn't too much history on the land. Our biggest thing, that's something that me and my mom talk about to this day, was I just think there was just a lot of angry energy. It just manifested itself into something spiritual. That's always been our explanation to it. When my dad passed away, energy came back where everybody was sad and my mom couldn't stop crying. That's when it started happening again.